Morning, gardeners and homesteaders. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, and welcome back to another segment of the pollinator garden build. We got a lot going on here. I've been as busy as I could be right now and got a lot of it cleared out. So I'm going to show you the space we have, and then we're going to start marking what we're planting and where, and then why we're planting these things in this situation, and also what could go wrong, because I always got to think about down the line what could go wrong. All right, now we did come through and we cleared out all of the lilies that we saw at the time, but then when we did, we actually had some more pop up. So you can see here, we got some that are popping up. That is going to prove to be a pain in the butt, but we're gonna stay on top of it, and when we see them come up, we'll just continue pulling them. And we really have from now until winter, when they all die back, to really find them and get ahead of them, because they spread. I never thought of them as invasive, but turns out they are. And for the record, I've mentioned before that I am not an expert flower gardener by any stretch of the imagination. In the last video, I called those lilies irises by accident, and they are canna lilies, and they were taken over, and we've got some other spots that we're getting to get rid of, but they are canna lilies. So I do want to correct myself. And flowers are something that I'm learning more and more about over the years. It's definitely got a lot of it's a big hurdle to get over, but we're trying to figure it out, and this is kind of what goes into what could go wrong. You could have one big patch of a pollinator friendly flower in your garden space. What would it be? Let us know in the comments below. We start laying stuff out real quick. The only thing that we're gonna do here that does not include planting in our budget, which was 50 bucks, and now we got $10 from the lilies that we sold. So we went up to 60, spent 10 on seeds, so we're back at 50 bucks. This is the filter for my in-ground watering system that I put here, and I'm just gonna get a box to put around. I don't wanna move it or anything like that. It's been working well, and I feel like if I move it, I'm gonna mess it up. And the other thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna clear up all of our hose connections, and this shouldn't even cost us anything, but this is something that we're gonna have to spend some time to do. And I won't show you guys that, I'll show you the finished product, but it's just tidying it up and making it so the hoses aren't going everywhere. But other than that, everything else is gonna be planting in this area to kind of make it a more friendly pollinator situation. To be clear, when I say pollinators garden, I'm referring mostly to my honeybees, but also the butterflies and all the pollinators, but we're really going to cater to our honeybees as well. And that's really what's driving me to do this. So if that's something that you're interested in or anything like that, just know that that's really what we're doing. But all of these plants will benefit the pollinators in their own right. It may be food, it may be shelter, it may be nectar, it may be a place for them to breed, something like that. Like, everything will find a home, but the flowers that we're focusing on are for the honeybees mostly, and that's gonna give them the pollen and the nectar they need to in order to create honey for us and keep them really going live, and also planting so that they can make honey in the fall to get through winter. These flags here, and I've got a whole rack of them, and I just take them, and then I wrote on there a little abbreviation for stuff we're gonna do. So COS is cause. I have asters, which is here, and that simply says ass, because I mean it's aster, right? It's incredibly difficult to write on these flags with a Sharpie, believe it or not, but we did get through it, and I spent $5 on the flag, so we're gonna factor that in to our cost. So we're now at $15 used up out of our budget, but we're gonna be able to use these for years to come. So it'll work out really well. And I do like using this method, and I'm just gonna do a basic layout. So we're gonna take our first flag here, which is for cosmos, and I'm gonna put it right here. Now, cosmos are usually pretty small, but I got the seeds, and the plants that I saw looks like they're gonna come up to about here on the shed. So I need to factor that into everything. So we want to put those in the back. And then moving forward, we'll get a little bit smaller and smaller. Now this doesn't represent one plant, it represents a cluster of plants. So this whole area, for instance, we'll probably have 3 plants right here. So the cosmos are gonna be, I'd say like a late spring to early summer flowering. And that's something that we want to do too, is clump these things together, because what happens is the pollinators, like you can plant one flower, but if you have them in clumps, the pollinators can see them better, and then they'll come in and they'll land and they'll be able to find their target better to feed. And so that's why we're going to do a chunk of cosmos, and that'll be, like I said, late spring, early summer planting. And then we'll work into summer and then fall and stuff like that. So for this little itty bitty teeny weeny area here, we have more flags, and I'm gonna put echinacea in as well. Now, I personally love echinacea, but we're gonna put these, now these won't flower this year unless I transplant them from another side of my garden, or I buy a plant. Now, if I have leftovers, I may actually buy a plant just to get a flower so I can see it, but we're gonna put that over here. We'll stick a patch of echinaceas right there in the corner. And now you can see how it's starting to build out a little bit. We have marigolds and asters. Our marigolds, if you remember correctly, are gonna go here because they stay low under the door when it opens. And then for our fall plants, we're going to do black-eyed Susans, which is BS, and which is asters. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. I'm having a hell of a time working these flags and the camera at the same time. It's a real pain, and I appreciate you guys sticking with me this far. Now for the rest of the bed, we have this lavender here, which we're going to leave. And this is a good height recommendation, and I can always come in, and I may still come in and just cut it back even more so it'll bush out a little bit more, but I really need to trim this aggressively. But with the purple echinacea, the purple lavender, I think that the yellow black-eyed Susans will go pretty good right about there. And that's gonna be where, you know, it'll kind of fill in right here. Now this is a bee balm, which is like a pinkish color. So we're gonna leave that there. I planted it this year and it never really got to bloom, but it was getting shaded out by the canna lilies. But it looks nice and healthy. It's definitely spread, and we need to be able to contain that. And we can either contain it with other plants around it, or we can start hacking at it and going away. But I don't want to do anything just yet because I want it to have time to flower and see what it's going to do. But for this aster, which is going to be a purple flower, the black-eyed Susan will flower at the end of summer to early fall, and then the aster comes right around the same time, if not a little bit after. So we're actually going to put that back in the back. Now we can see how things are kind of shaping out here. We'll have a cluster of cosmos about this high, and then we'll have the asters that should be about the same, if not a little bit less. And then the black-eyed Susans and the echinacea are going to be just below that lavender. Isn't it fun just talking about how this stuff is going to grow before it actually is? Because in my mind, it's already there. But truth be told, there could be other issues. And the issue that's going to come with this is the amount of light that it gets. And it gets all day shade all the way up until about 1 o'clock. And then it's just boom, nothing but sun. And that's why we wanted to put these wildflower type flowers in it, because it can take the heat and it enjoys it, gives it time. And I mean, the worst case scenario is one, they're going to be leggy, or two, they're not going to bloom. And if that's the case, then we'll have to go back to the drawing board. But right now we've got so little invested in the plants that we have time to kind of, you know, we'll still have money in our budget to kind of work around it if we have to. But we're going to give it a solid year, starting in spring of next year, for the record. Got a bunch more flags here for other parts of the garden. And because a lot of these are coming from the seeds that we purchased, we are going to go ahead and use these as part of the expansion, because it's not going to cost us any more. I mean, for the pack of seeds I got, I can easily get, for all of this area here on this side yard, we can get started planting. And the only thing that I'll really need to purchase is wildflower seeds, because there's going to be a lot of wildflowers here because of all of the space that we have. Now, this area is first to get worked on, and what we're going to do is we're going to get the chickens in here, and we're going to set them up from here all the way over to here and just let them munch on all of this stuff and tear it all up over the next couple weeks. Probably we're going to start pretty soon. I'm going to let these kind of die out, and then we'll move them and they can kind of stir it up and work it. And that's going to work out really good because they're going to work the whole ground. They're going to kill all the weeds, get them all out of there, and then we can start planting our wildflowers and stuff in this section. Now, I won't make you sit through this one, but I'm going to go through these little sections in the yard and tell you what we're planting. We're going to put asters there. We're going to put cosmos. It seems similar, but it's actually a little bit different. Marigolds are going to go right along here. We're going to border it with marigolds probably. Then the biggest patch in here is probably going to be wildflowers. So we'll take this in the most sunny section and do wildflowers. And then black-eyed Susans are going to go over here. Now, if we get in and we start measuring and we see that we have too much space or not enough space for the wildflowers, then all of that space back there behind the garden beds, if you can see, all of that space we're going to just go ahead and seed with wildflower seeds. And that's just going to be a broadcast situation. And when the chickens get back there and they start working it up and they're actually just kind of tilling it, then we'll come back behind them with our tiller, and at this point it'll be really easy because they've already worked the majority of it, and we'll just run our tiller across and scratch it up, and then we can spread the seeds out there and really get them good soil to seed contact. Now, this section here looks like it's all weeds and overgrown, but really it's not. We've got Shasta daisies here, we've got hibiscus here, we've got some echinaceas in here. You can see that there's some echinacea right here that are growing, more Shasta daisies. And then in the back, right in this area, I believe we have more echinacea that just haven't flowered yet this year. So next year we're going to find out. We've got a couple black-eyed Susans that have kind of made it over the years. We're going to let them just kind of reseed and fall. And then all of this over here, where you see all of the pots that we've had, this whole section from my bonsai bench all the way to here is all going to be redone too. The plan is to do that. And the only thing we're going to really do different here is we're going to put marigolds on the front probably, again, unless I get some lilies. I may put them in because they'll just kind of go year after year. Wildflowers, black-eyed Susans, echinacea, and then we're going to do a patch probably right here of straw flowers, a nice big patch of that. And then that should round it out, and we'll go back in where the other flowers are and just kind of revitalize them a little bit. And what we really need to do is we really need to get some mulch down and really get those weeds at bay that did come up this year. We went through and weeded it recently. And the thing is, with a lot of these perennials and stuff that we tried to grow in the past, they don't flower the first year. And if you don't know exactly what the foliage looks like, then you got to wait technically 2 years to see what the flower looks like to even see. And that's what's happened to this garden. Now, we kind of, after 2 years, we figured it out and we just gutted it. And then right when we gutted it and we mulched it, it got a lot better. We don't have any weeds coming up really, and it really has worked out great. So we're gonna do the same over there. Now the chickens are gonna tear it up. They're gonna eat the weeds. They're gonna eat the weed seed. They're gonna till it, prepare the soil for us, poop on it, so that we get some nice fertilizer going in there, natural, totally natural, nitrogen-rich fertilizer to help vitalize that soil, revitalize that soil. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you never know. And then seed it, and then wherever we don't seed it, we can go through and mulch it, and then we can kind of keep it at bay. Now the wildflower seeding is gonna start in the fall. So we're gonna do that probably around late November or between late November and mid-December. We're going to try and get in the wet season, get it going, let it go like that, and then if there's any seeds that need to be cold stratified, they can do that naturally through the fluctuations of the temperature through the week or through the year. Any kind of rain, we don't have to water it as much, and then come spring, hopefully we get enough rain to keep it up so we don't have to water it, because that's going to be a big pain. Thinking about all of this, imagine sitting here and looking and seeing nice lush growth all the way up over there, and then coming around and then just seeing wildflowers and stuff through here amongst the gardens. I think it's going to be pretty. I really hope it works. I've had really hit or miss luck with this over the years, And this will officially be the most effort I've put into anything like this, but I've got a driving force behind it. And is it enough to feed my bees? No, it is not enough to feed them. But what it is enough to do is it's enough to fill my heart and make me feel like I'm doing enough to help my bees and other bees and the population in the area. And the way I look at it is if everybody around you put in a 5x5 patch of pollinator friendly flowers, then you could essentially really boost the production up for the bees and stuff like that and help them, because that's what we really want. And I mean, we're sitting here in butterfly season, there's butterflies everywhere, and if I can even think for a second that we're going to be able to get more butterflies, then I'm all about it, because it's pretty cool to have 10, 20, 30 butterflies flying around your yard at one time. I love it. There's nothing better. But if you guys are doing anything like this, let us know in the comments below.